Welcome to Gridbusters. Today what I want to do is hook up the Victron Quattro here to the power in unit. So we've got some 95mm cables over there. First thing I'm going to do is measure everything up so I know the route. So I'm going to be routing it from here through the back, then up, then out here, then up into the inverter. So the first thing I need to do is actually measure my cable, and then we need to cut some cables and crimp some cables. Now Victron actually say, you know, this is actually a 15 kilowatt inverter. I think it will peak much higher than that, but you know, 15 kilowatts is quite a lot of juice. We are going to have about 100 kilowatts of battery as well, so potentially we can be drawing quite a lot of power. So they say we actually need two 95mm positive cables and two 95mm negative cables. It's a lot of cable. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So the first thing, let's get measuring. The cables are going to be running through this bottom hole here, coming down behind the panel and then up into the power in. So the first thing I'm going to do is just remove the cover. So I think the cable is going to come down here. Let me see, something like that. That would be the positive, wouldn't it? Yeah, I'll give it a little bit of extra. So we're going to have one positive here, another positive here. And then, I think I'm going to measure it the other way. I think that's going to be easier. Let's measure it this way, I think. It's heavy, this cable. There we go. So I don't know how much slack I should give it there. I think that should be about there. I don't want it to be too tight. There we go. Just remove these tabs. There we go. So that's where it's going to come up. So let's just see, is that long enough? Well, that certainly is long enough. I just wonder if I give it extra room, is that going to be... So I'm just thinking out loud here, because I'm just thinking if there's extra cable behind the board, is that good or bad? I mean, I guess I want to keep these as short as possible. I'm just thinking, if the cable is over here, will it still reach? And it will. And I want it to look neat as well, so I'm going to give it a tiny bit extra. I'm just going to say there we go. So I'm marking this with a pencil. And then an arrow, so I know that is, there we go. So that's where we're going to be cutting, and that is our length. So let's just remove that. It's expensive, this cable. So that's about 1 meter. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is take all the cable over to the workshop, get these cut, and then I've got some connectors here. These are the ones I need to do. So yep, they fit over the terminals here and they fit over the terminals here. So yeah, big 95mm crimpable terminals. So let's go to the workshop and let's get cutting and crimping. The first thing I need to do is get all my cables cut to length. So that's the first cable length, about 1 meter. And I'm just going to trim this end off because this is like a factory end and it's a little bit corroded. So, but these new German cutters, oh, that cuts so well. So much easier than the other ones. So there we go. Dear me, what a mess. Right, so that's my length. Just need to cut the others to the same length. Trying to keep these cables the same length. I think it makes sense. I think Victron said that they should be the same length, so let's keep them the same length. There we go. Very easy to cut. Fantastic. So we've got 2 negatives there. Brilliant. And that's a spare piece there. And then we need 2, or rather that's 2 positives rather. And then we need 2 negatives. Right, I'm going to cut this end off because it's a little bit corroded. There we go. It's amazing what a difference having the right tools makes. It's worth spending a little bit of money on good tools when you're doing all this sort of stuff. Otherwise you just struggle, you really do. And there we go. So, fantastic. And one more. And then we've got to strip these cables back and then crimp them. Once I've got this hooked up to the bus bars, I can then get the inverter permanently switched on. And then when the inverter is switched on, I can then hook it up to the PC and get it all configured. I did try to hook it up to the PC during the power cut, but failed miserably. And to be honest, I had other priorities, so I didn't really try that hard. So, yeah. Oh, don't want to get my cables mixed up. So I think that's the right. Right, those are my 2 positives and 2 negatives. There we go. So here we go. Yeah, so then I can get the Victron inverter configured using the PC. And then when I've done that, I can set up the charging profiles and so forth and get it hooked up to the mains. And then at least we can charge the batteries from the grid for now. You know, I think that's important, just in case we have another power cut, because battery number 2 is only 50% charged at the moment. So it'd be good to get that hooked up, and then we can at least get that side of the system working. Right. So next thing we need to do is crimp on these monster terminals. I've never done ones this big before. Just move that a bit closer. So I think we're going to go with that. I've actually found that, you know, I've struggled stripping cable. I've tried to use various different tools for the job, this being one of them. And although it does work sometimes, a lot of the times it doesn't. There we go. So I've not managed to get these to work consistently. And the other day I was stripping some cables back and I spent half an hour trying to get the damn things working. And in that time I could have just stripped them back using a knife. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. And it was interesting. I was talking to an electrician the other day who came round to do something on one of the fuse boxes because we're having next door, we're putting some other stuff in, and it had to be done by a certified electrician. And I said to him, I said, hey, you know, I've been having some problems stripping cable back, particularly the French twin earth cable. It's you know, like live, neutral, and earth, all in a very thick, a rat-proof actually sleeve. It's very tough, much thicker than and tougher than UK cable. And I've always struggled stripping those back. I mean, I've rewired the whole house next door, so I've stripped back hundreds of cables. And I've always just done it with a knife like this. And I thought there's probably like some special French tool you can get which just, you know, wraps around it and strips off the insulation in one easy go. And so I said to him, I said, oh, is there a special tool you use for stripping cable back? And he got out of his little toolbox a knife. And he said, yeah, I've always just used a knife. And I was just like, right, okay. So sometimes the simplest tools are the best. And actually, that works okay, doesn't it? There we go. My, oh my. This is, boy, oh boy, this is a big cable. And then, let me just bring this over. Now you'll notice that these connectors here, these crimpable connectors, have the end of them, it's kind of like a bell shape. And it makes getting all of these strands in much easier. There we go. Yay. And you can probably see there, you can see the copper there, which is right there. When I push it in, it's, there we go. So we know we've done it to the correct length. So all I need now is some heat shrink, and then we can get crimping. So I'm just going to cut back the rest of these cables, and then we'll get to crimping. The first thing I need to do is to change the crimping tool over. It's set for a smaller gauge cable. So I have some 95mm, I don't know what these things are called, but things to go in the crimping tool to crimp the 95mm cable. So I need to switch these over. So it's going to remove this bar here, or move this up rather, which I think will enable, oops, yep, enable those to come out. There we go. So that was set for 50mm cable. So I'll just put the 50mm ones back in, and then we're going to put in the 95mm connectors. Whoops. Let's get that one in. And then, there we go. There we go. We are set. So, let's crimp our first cable. Let's start with one of the black ones. Here we go. So, let's get that one there. Oh, a stray one there. There we go. I wonder if it's going to be harder to crimp these big, and I can't even get it through. Wow. Okay, so I'm going to have to put it through like, huh. Right, there we go. Definitely double crimp on these. So let me just tighten that up. You can just making sure you can see everything. I think you can. Right, there we go. I've got two camera angles today. Going for the fancy camera work. Right, there we go. Oh yeah, that seems to be fine. That's going in easily. Oh, all right, I think that's as. Right, and then we'll do the old double crimp. There we go. I'm going to remove that bar just to get it out. But yay, that's pretty good. Happy with that. Right, let's get the other end done. Bit of a pain having to remove this bar every time I want to get the connector in. But it's such big cable, this. Goes up to 120 mil I can do on this particular crimper. So, yeah. I don't think I'll ever need to do a cable bigger than that. So let's get that in. There we go. Oh, need to tighten that up. There we go. I think what I will do is I'll get this one cable crimped up and we'll do the heat shrink on it, and then we'll take it back to the plant room and we'll fit it just to make sure 100% it's good before I do all the rest. There we go, and we're going to do a double crimp, so let's just do the second one there. There we go. Gosh, that is a pain, having to remove that every time. There we go. Anyway, happy with that. Let's get some heat shrink on there. So tight fit that heat shrink. Right, there we go. That's probably a good thing. Right. Let's get shrinking. Let's yeah, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? Quite happy with that. Let's get the other one done. So we've got our two ends. Right, we've got our first cable all finished and done. I'm just going to go and test fit that quickly just to make sure everything is good. Right, so first thing I need to do is get this cable fished through. So that's going to go through there, and then we're going to hook it on there. So I've got some washers and a cracked nut. So got a washer there, a lock nut, Obviously I'm not tightening this up to final tightness, this is just to see if this fits. So make sure I'm happy with the cable route. So we're going to have our two black cables there, the negatives, and then the reds will go on the two pluses. So that's coming down through this hole, down behind the board, and then we're going to come up here to the negative terminal here. So we do have some extra slack, but that can just go behind the board, I guess. And there we go. Yeah, that fits okay, doesn't it? Let's just put that there. So yeah, so we've got our two negatives and then we have our two positives there. Right, so I need to go and crimp the rest of the cables. Right, let's get the other negatives connected up. That's interesting, just looking at this. Looks like I can connect more negatives than positives. Not quite sure why. So on the bottom row of this power, and let me know if anyone knows this. So on the bottom row, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So space for 5 cables. Technically, we could hook up 5 positives. But on the top, there's only 1, 2, 3, there's 4. Yeah, that's weird. Could this be modified? Could we put in another one here? I don't know, maybe not. It's a shame. That would be useful. That would be really useful if we could. Obviously, we could connect something to the end terminals here. Yeah, it's funny that there is one here but not on the top. Let me know if anyone out there has modified one of these power ins to have an extra terminal where this screw is, because this screw is actually screwing this bus bar into the frame, but for some reason it doesn't have one on the bottom. Yeah, it would be nice if we could fit an extra one there. Anyway, let me know what you think. Right, let's get this hooked up. So I'm going to pass this through the back here. Here we go. And let's get this on this side. It's going to go up and over. There we go. So let's get that on. So I've got a washer and a lock washer. So the washer goes on first. Then we get our lock washer on. And then we put a nut on. So let's get all that on. Just going to get these put on but not tightened up yet. I want to make sure I've got all the cables correctly before I tighten and torque everything. So I just want to make sure I've got all my cable runs neat and tidy before I do any kind of torquing. I don't want to put unnecessary strain on things. I only want to torque things up once if possible. And then that's going to go on there. First positive cable. Thinking I have to go on this side. There we go. Washer, lock washer and nut. So washer, lock washer, and then the nut. Okay, let's just get that. Again, not tightened, just put on a little bit just to make sure we've got all our cable runs correct before we torque anything up. Oh. Let's get the cable through here. We've got our cable cover here. There we go. God, just barely enough room. Just want to make sure I can get the cover back on once I've got all these on with the cables in this sort of orientation. Let's get the washer on there. Just want to make sure, like I said, that the cover does go back on okay. If it does, then what we'll do is we'll get everything torqued up. Time to torque up the bolts here on the bus bar and on the Quattro. Now in the manual it says up to 14 Newton meters. So I don't know if that should be 13 or should it be 14? So I think I'm going to go with 13.5. Let me know in the comments what you think. If it says up to 14 Newton meters, should I do it to 14? I think I should do it to 13.5 personally. So let's just get that. There we go, so 13.5. Let's give that a go. Okay. Just realising I can't actually get access to the bolts underneath without taking these off. Oh, so I've got to take these off and then I can torque up the ones underneath. Right, don't. Right, taking those cables off. Let's try it again. Okay. And just going to screw these back on. I'll just put that all back together. Right, let's get those torqued up now. Just make sure that's straight. That's straight. Right, that's all torqued up. Now the inverter. Gosh, I really could use a longer section for my wrench here. Let me just see if I've got something. There we go, found an extension. That makes life a bit easier. So, talking to 13.5. Right, all torqued to 13.5. Let me know your thoughts. Should I change this to 14 because the manual says up to 14 Newton meters, or do you think 13.5 is okay? I think it's okay because when you're torquing it to the torque setting, I might be going a little bit more than the actual, because it starts bleeping and it's still moving, so I might actually be torquing it a little bit more than 13.5. So I think torquing it to 13.5, I'm probably pretty close to 14. So there we go, all torqued up. Right, that looks all right, doesn't it? Seems a bit tight, but yes, there we go. Voila, as they say in France. I'm happy with that. I'm not happy with the way it looks here. I'm happy with that. So I'm happy with the way it looks here. That looks good. So maybe we'll have to do some little cable management, something like that. Yeah, I think what I'll do is I will maybe put some cable ties there. But yeah, happy with that. In the next video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be turning everything on. We're going to be hooking everything up to the computer, to the PC, to configure the software in the Quattro inverter. Once I've done that, I can hook everything up to the mains to start charging my batteries. So that's what we're covering in the next video. Really appreciate all of your comments and likes on the video, which is fantastic. I've just gone to the 1,000 subscriber mark, which is amazing. Thank you so much for your comments. I do read your comments. And until next time, stay safe. This has been Gridbusters, and remember to subscribe and like this video. It really does help the channel. Okay guys, I'll catch you next time.